Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Play It by Ear podcast featuring me, your host, Joanna, with my co host, Carrie. Say hello, Carrie.
Hi, everyone.
Today's topic is pretty interesting. We're talking, we've called it No One Cares, Just Go, Go, Go. And to give a little bit more more background info of how we came up with this. There is this mentality, especially in the classical music world, that no one really cares what you're going through. They just want you to show up and do your thing. And so, because there is this myth that no one cares, we end up not telling anyone else, that is, what is going on in our lives, even if something, really catastrophic is happening. We pretend like nothing's happening and we just go, go, go. And then no one knows that you're going through anything. And then if you underperform, they just think you're trash instead of understanding what's going on. So that's kind of background information as to how we came up with the title for this particular episode, because this is actually what at least we feel is a very prevalent attitude in the classical music world. So Carrie, take it away. What are your thoughts on this topic?
I think you've set it up really well in that we all feel it to a certain degree. And I think for myself, I started feeling that way since very early
Oh,
on in
really?
undergraduate degree. It just feels like whatever personal issues or personal struggles and troubles I have inside, I know I get affected by it when I'm
Right.
performing or when I'm playing, even just in lessons or rehearsals. And I feel like there's always this inner dialogue I have within me that says, oh no, there's a part of me that's always thinking of the issue or the thing that's troubling me. And then I don't say it out loud, but it comes across in my playing. And then I feel like afterwards I need to excuse myself because like I underperformed, like you said. It's like I didn't mean to, but this happened, and they're like, "Oh, okay,
Right.
well." So it's been there for a while,
I've
I
done
think.
that before too. And I always felt, and I don't know if you feel this, but I definitely felt that, like,
Hmm.
while I had sort of like this head knowledge that, like, oh, I'm going through this catastrophic thing, and it's troubling me, and so I'm distracted while playing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, you try to hide it so you don't tell anyone you're doing it, but by the time you're breaking down and underperforming and people are noticing,
Hmm.
do you also feel that it's like you're making up an excuse?
Yes.
It's the
100%.
worst, because at least I feel that I've grown up in this kind of with this sort of attitude that, like, no excuses. You know,
Hmm.
you do what you do, you get your stuff done, no excuses. Like, don't tell
Hmm.
me what's going on at home, or, oh no, I have too much homework and I have this project that I'm thinking of. Don't care. You can still play your instrument. You can still
Yeah.
practice anyway. And that was, at least I feel that that was drilled into me. But if I really go back and I think about it, I don't really know if any of my teachers explicitly said this to me.
No. Um, and I'll jump in on
Yeah.
that. From as a child, I remember being taught if you see someone else struggling or going through something, they're still going to be able to perform at their peak.
Oh my God.
So, under no circumstances should you feel like you can collapse and not do your best.
Wow.
So, yeah, I don't think I've heard any of my teachers say explicitly, this is what is expected of you all the
Right.
time. You can't make any excuses. No, I have not
Mm-hmm.
heard anyone so far say that explicitly. But like you said, it has always been in me. I feel if I'm underperforming, I want to justify it. I want to explain to people why I'm doing it like that, or why the outcome was like that, because I know that's
Yeah.
not me and I know I can do
Mm-hmm.
better. But when I tell people that story or the
Mm-hmm.
excuse, it sounds so weak to my ears, to my own ears. It feels like just, oh yeah, you're just saying that
Yeah.
because you didn't practice or you didn't do this, didn't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kind of compounds the guilt and the shame,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I only remember that it's almost a feeling of no one is interested in what's actually going on in my life. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I will just vaguely tell this story, but I have to be very vague about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I went through a time when I was a teenager where we had a huge medical issue with one of my family members. And I was really worried. And we didn't know at the time uh, what was going on with this person. It was just kind of in the air, and we are just kind of waiting for a diagnosis. And there was a chance
Mm-hmm.
that this person could die. And so I went to, one of these music things. um, and I told them, hey, my family member is like in the hospital. And it was just blank face. Just
Oh,
com- just no
no
reaction.
reaction.
And then after a very awkward pause, they were like, well, now you have more time to practice. Yeah.
Excuse me?
So that kind of drilled into my teenage head. Like, I don't think that those people meant it the way that it comes off. I think they meant it as, oh, you could use practicing as an escape. I think that's what they meant. But
Okay.
I mean, we can tell from Carrie's expression here that
Open to
that like
interpretation,
it
let's say that.
doesn't come across really well. It comes across as disinterest. It comes across as just blowing off what I was going through. And that experience kind of made me mistakenly think that no one cares what you're going through, and you just have to hide it, bite the bullet, and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And I I did that for a while, for I would say up until I was in my master's. And then in my master's, Carrie knows this because Carrie walked me through this whole debacle. But I had long story short, I had my heart broken, not by my current husband. This was a guy from before. But I had my heart broken. And at that point, like, I was so mentally and emotionally wrecked by this that I knew that if I went into school, everyone would be like, something is wrong with Joanna. So in order to sort of like preemptively, like it was, I almost treated it like damage control, like I knew I was so wrecked from this that I was like, I'm so wrecked. I know I can't hide. So I'm just going to go in and like make appointments with my band director, with my orchestra conductor, who also happened to be the graduate department head. And also I just went straight into my flute lesson, and I just went right up to my teacher and was like, I had my heart broken. I went right into my band director's office and was like, I had my heart broken. Went right into my graduate director's office. I had my heart broken. That, like, literally just went up to everyone and was like, I had my heart broken. I'm a mess. Please excuse me for the next 2 weeks at least. Okay. You know? And I think what I was surprised by the most was that they all stopped and they were just like, are you okay? Like, are you taking care of yourself? Like, are you okay? And I was really surprised by that, because I had essentially grown up with thinking that people didn't care, that there was just disinterest, but they showed interest in what I was going through. That lesson was basically not a lesson. It was like a therapy session where she just got me to talk about what happened. And honestly, it was one of the best lessons I ever had. But it was a far cry from what I had experienced before at that other music event. And it, you know, I think I learned when I was older that not everyone is like that. But it took me a long time to realize this. And I only did this out of desperation, because I was like, I am so wrecked. I literally cannot hide this. Like, my tone is wrecked. I sound like crap. Like, I sounded way worse. And the weirdest side effect of this was that because I was open about my heartbreak, I ended up playing better. I think it's the act of hiding was causing me to just have this kind of suppressed tone and this kind of like iron grip technique and, you know, fingers and stuff like that. But I think the moment that I was like, oh, everyone knows, I can just let go, you know? And I learned how to play with emotion and with expression. That was the first time in my life that I truly let go. So because of that positive effect, that started to kind of change my thinking around it, being like, no, maybe actually people do care. And I should tell people when something is happening to me. But broaching the topic is always really awkward, you know? Like, I'm literally going in and going, before we begin, I just need to tell you, I'm wrecked right now. And this is why. Like, I had to sort of prepare in my head, like almost like a Cliff Notes version of what happened to me, you know? Like, I had to like condense it down to like 3 to 5 points. This is what happened to me, you know? Like, I really like prepared going into these meetings. I was like, this is what happened to me. I'm going to be wrecked for the next 2 weeks. Please don't expect me to be playing at 100% capacity for 2 weeks, but I'm giving myself a limit of 2 weeks. So you can start expecting stuff of me in 3 weeks. Okay. And of course, all of them were like, Joanna, that's crazy. Take all the time you need. Right. But like, I went in prepared because I thought that they wouldn't care. So I thought they would only care about my performance. So that's why I was like, give me 2 weeks. Just give me 2 weeks to just be a wreck. Like, I just need 2 weeks. But they were also kind, and they were like, take all the time you need.
I have 2 questions for you. Do you feel that once you were able to let go, you were able to get in touch with your true self and therefore allow your emotions to color your playing in a way, and you grew as a person and in maturity as well?
So I think there was something about knowing that other people know that already put me in a vulnerable setting. So I didn't have to feel like I was becoming more vulnerable by coloring my expression with my emotion, right? Like, one of the most awkward things to, and I'm sure you've experienced this from the teacher's end, as well as the students' end. One of the most awkward music lessons you could probably ever have is a music lesson on expression and a music lesson on emotion, and like just get into it, you know what I mean? And it's awkward, like, because like it puts you in a very vulnerable position where you have to bare your soul through music, like literally while your teacher's like looking at you, you know what I mean? Like it's awkward. And then being the teacher who's like looking at your student, be like, let go, be vulnerable, you know, it's really awkward, you know? And so I think what happened was that I had accidentally put myself in a position of vulnerability already by telling them what happened. And so because I was there anyway, I think my mind was like, oh, okay, it's not so bad here. And just kind of let the emotions actually come through. I think that's what happened. And then what was the second thing? Like, did I mature from it? Yes, definitely. Because I think that it taught me that I should communicate. And that, like, telling people bluntly what's happening to me is just a much better way of operating. Because now I don't have to pretend that I'm okay. And there's something very freeing and also very practical about admitting that sometimes you're not okay. And it built empathy, like a ton of empathy. Like if I notice that someone is starting to sound like crap that day, my first instinct is not, wow, they didn't practice. My first instinct is, are they okay? And that was a huge change for me, for sure. Like, I guess, like my empathy matured, I think.
Actually, that's a very good segue into my second question that I wanted to ask. You said that you are more or less able to tell or kind of guess when someone's not feeling okay. Do you then, maybe as a friend or as a teacher or as an acquaintance, invite that person, whether it's directly or indirectly, to share their troubles with you? And in thinking so, do you kind of turn that dialogue back around to yourself and feel like, oh, I wish I had thought about that when I was going through something, that other people actually are willing to listen, but I was just too afraid to maybe embrace that vulnerability and
that was a really
express
good
that.
question, because we all know, and you know by asking this question, that it is
because that's something I've struggled
so
with. Still do,
but it
to a
is
certain
so
extent.
awkward to ask, are you okay? You know, and what's wrong?
Yes.
Right? Like, that's really awkward to ask that, because usually what it does is it puts the other person on the defensive.
It can. I'm inclined to say it depends on the relationship you've built or not yet built.
Especially if it's like, let's say, you know, in the situation that I brought up, which is like you're sitting in rehearsal and then someone else starts playing their solo and then they sound like crap, and and they don't, you know, it's kind of out of the norm, you know, like, you know, you can tell that something's wrong. You know, normally what I do, and I don't know if this is just because I'm a coward and I can't ask, are you okay? What's wrong? I kind of, what I usually end up doing is I end up complimenting them on something. So I find something to compliment. I don't care what it is. It could be something they're wearing. It could be the way they played a specific part that I did think that they played really well, right? It could be, I just find something to compliment, because I feel that people are a lot more receptive to opening up to you if they feel safe with you. And I personally find that my cop-out way to make people feel safe around me is to compliment them. And the other way, my other cop out way of having people feel safe around me is I very earnestly ask them, how are you doing? Like, are you,
Yeah.
how's life? You know? And then you ask it a second time. So when they say, yeah, I'm fine, you reword, how are you? And you go, like, how was your week? Right? You get a little bit more specific,
Yeah.
and then they
And it,
realize that you are actually asking how they are. And that is another, my second way of just kind of like getting them to feel safe enough to open up around me. Then once I do that, it's kind of it's their decision if they want to open up what happened with me, right? Some people, all they need is to know that someone cares, and that's it. They don't actually have to tell you what's going on with them. Other people feel a lot better if they express what's happening and you kind of uncork that bottle for them, right? So that they're not bottling up anymore. But different personalities, you if you want to care for them, you have to care for them in different ways, right? So I kind of let them lead. Like, do they want to tell me? Do they not want to tell me? I don't want to interrogate them either. I have done this for some of my students. That's why I'm so practiced at it. Because as a teacher, you can definitely tell if something is not the same, right? Like, the way they talk to you, the way they play for you, you can tell that something's different. I had one just happen this week, which is that I noticed that something was different. It just seemed a little tense, I found out at the end, I just kind of cracked some jokes and I, complimented them. I asked them how they were doing. I pulled out all the stops, like everything that I could possibly do to make this student feel safe. I did. And then I found out that someone moved in with them and they were self-conscious about playing with the other person in the house. And I was like, oh, honey, let me tell you, at the beginning of the pandemic, when my husband started working from home, it took me 6 months to stop caring that he could hear me play the flute. I'm like, it's okay. Like, what you're feeling, totally normal. You don't have to try not to feel embarrassed. Just feel it. It'll go away on its own, Like, even I, as a professional, and so, when she finally told me that that's what happened, that's when I was like, oh, I see what's going on. And so I immediately told her my own experience that, mirrors a similar thing. And she's just like, oh, okay, that actually makes me feel so much better to know that, I'm not crazy, right? And so, you can sense it, but you can't just outright, at least I can't. I am not the personality that can outright ask. Like, I seek to make them feel safe first. And then I very gently nudge it out, and but yeah, it's awkward. I have to say it takes practice. It takes practice to talk to people in that kind of caring manner in which they understand that you're not interrogating them, that you are just trying to understand. A lot of times I feel that when we're in the student side and then the teacher asks us what's going on, we feel like we're being interrogated. But just know that they're not, because if they didn't care, they wouldn't ask. It really, I know this from literal experience, if they didn't care, they would not ask. you know?
Yep.
So if they are asking and you do feel interrogated, give yourself a moment and then decide how much you're comfortable sharing. But just know that this person is actually endeavoring to help you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a safer approach to make the person feel safer first rather than like really just jumping right in. Unless you're really, really close to that person and you know them extremely
Like
well.
us,
And
like when
yeah,
one of us is going through something, the other person will just be like, "Are you okay?"
what's up?
What's up, right?
Yeah, it's like you haven't spoken to me
Yeah.
in a while. There's something going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
You need to tell me now.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, but otherwise, I don't think there's anything wrong in trying to make the other person feel comfortable and feel like they're in
yeah.
a safe
Like
space and they won't be
have
judged.
you had, I guess, similar experiences?
Um, Top of my mind, yes, I have had similar experiences
Mm,
with students. Um, and again, I do like to build the sort of relationship where it's not just
right.
learning about music, but rather it's your life informs your music, so I'm interested in them as a person,
Mm.
as a whole,
Mhm.
as an individual, rather than just whether or not you're able to play your
Yeah.
piece, play your instrument, or and how far you
Yeah.
can progress in music. I mean, if you want to go
Hmm.
really far, sure, I'm gonna do my best to support you, but I want to make sure that you're okay as an
Yeah.
individual, as a person
I
first.
mean, I share that sentiment because, in my opinion, the human is the the person, the thing making music, and
Hmm.
if the person is unwell in any manner, be it mental, physical, emotional, heck, spiritual, if they are
Yeah.
in some sort of trouble, like, I am of the opinion that that needs to be addressed first, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
um not so much to like relate it back to the music, like not in that way, but I believe that a healthy musician is a good musician, and I believe that an
Hmm.
unhealthy musician is a ticking time bomb. And I
Yeah.
would rather not my students be ticking time bombs, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
because, you know, if you're just trying to like hold yourself together, you know, you know what I mean? Like if you're
Hmm.
just trying to hold yourself together by yourself and hide it, they not only will they continue to feel extra pressure that isn't there, you know, they
Hmm.
they're putting pressure on themselves,
Yeah.
and the pressure can really get to their heads. Like that's when you start to do like very self-abusive negative talk, and it becomes this
Yeah.
horrific cycle of self-abuse that no one sees.
Hmm.
And since no one is seeing it, no one can catch it, and then it just snowballs out of
Hmm.
control, and then you become like me and end up with practice anxiety 20 years later, um I mean,
Yeah.
I recently broke am breaking out of it, but like
Hmm.
that's kind of what happens when you let that ticking
Yeah.
time bomb just keep going, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just took a quick glance at our notes and I just saw the words like mental blocks and
Mhm.
struggles. That's like that is something that is important to be addressed as soon as
Mhm.
possible, I think, or as soon as you
Mhm.
realize it's there. Otherwise, like you said, with your experience with the heartbreak, if you didn't free yourself,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, um, you can't continue
No.
doing what you want
No,
to do.
because
It's gonna hinder your
Yeah, because I would
daily
be
life.
like, here's the thing with us as musicians is that our ability to make music is
Hmm.
is what drives us to be able to put bread on the table, and so like
Yes.
for us especially, I feel that we really have to hold ourselves to like being real with and practical
Hmm.
with like what can
Yep.
you actually mentally shoulder right now? What can you actually emotionally handle
Yes.
right now? Right? What can you actually physically handle right now? Like, can you actually do a 4 hour practice session? Honey, maybe not if you're a professional musician. You're going to way too many gigs, okay? You know, pandemic times, you've been streaming for too long for people to basically play monkey dance with you, okay? And like, like you're tired, like you have to
Yeah.
recognize when you're tired. You also have to recognize when you need to make time to unwind and recover, right?
Hmm.
Like I was literally just doing this right before I got on call with you. I have
Hmm.
returned to making videos and editing. And let me tell
Hmm.
you, it was a struggle to not open up the editing software right before I came on here to see you. Technically speaking, I've been working between 9 a.m. and 6:15 p.m. today with like an extra long
Hmm.
break in the middle because we went to get our car's oil changed. But, besides
Hmm.
that, it's been a full working day. I have worked for 8 hours, like minus the break, right? And so
Yep.
I've done my 8 hours of work. I really should not work more, you know? But like, I literally had to tell myself just over and over, Joe, you've worked your 8 hours today. You as much as you want to edit, no, you can't edit
Hmm.
right now, like, because you're gonna burn out. Like you need to just come
Yep.
back to it tomorrow. You know, and it's like a
Yeah.
constant talking to myself like, Joe, you don't have to work right now, you don't have to edit, you don't have to finish it right now, like
Hmm.
it's hard. It's hard to strike that balance, you know.
It is. It is. It's the importance of helping ourselves
Yeah,
understand our
like our
limits
bodies need
and being
rest,
able, yeah,
yeah.
to set those boundaries and respect those boundaries, and as hard as it may
I
be
think
sometimes.
that the hardest boundaries to respect are the boundaries that we give ourselves. Because
I
I
agree.
usually break those boundaries just all the time. I always think,
Yeah.
right?
You feel like, oh, it's
It's
okay.
okay. I could do a little bit more. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
Tell yourself it's not okay. You communicate with other people. You need to communicate with yourself
Right?
too, actually. I just do.
Yeah. I talk to myself a lot. No, just in my
Out
head.
loud?
There's
Okay.
it's
I
a
do
lot
too.
of like, I know you want to do this, but you really shouldn't. Like go distract yourself with something else.
Hmm.
So I just stood outside making this tea so I wouldn't come into the office and start working.
You could give your husband the key and leave him in the
Right?
office so you're not coming in for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, you got to take time to evaluate what it is that your body and your brain and your heart need, you know?
Hmm.
And have the empathy to understand the same for other people. Yeah.
Yep. That's
So,
very true. And on that
mhm.
note, I think that's a good place to
Sounds
end this
good.
episode. And we'll talk more about communication in the upcoming one. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our third episode of Opus 2. We hope you enjoyed it. And please share with us what you think, your questions, and especially the experiences that you've been through. We really, really would love to hear from you. And I'm not just saying that. We want to. We want to hear all about what you've been through. And we really do hope that if you are going through something, this will help give you comfort that you're not alone, but also that it's important to
Yes.
seek help.
Please, if you need professional help, please seek help.
Yeah, because there are resources out there, and there are people out there who are trained to help people in certain situations. So please be kind to yourself, love yourself. And if you enjoy our podcast, you can find us on our website, letsplayitbyear.com. That's our website, letsplayitbyear.com. And you can also find us on our social media platforms. We have Facebook, Let's Play It By Ear podcast, Twitter, and the handle, I think it's let_ear, and Instagram, Let's Play It By Ear podcast. And we are also on Anchor.
Anchor.fm. Yes.
FM. And if you would like to reach out to us, get in touch with us, we have our email address, letsplayitbyear.podcast@gmail.com. letsplayitbyear.podcast@gmail.com. And once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Everyone.
See you.